Let's turn now to some business news. And well, the health prognosis of Donald Trump continuing to fuel uncertainty for stock markets and investors. Let's take a look at how things are shaping up at the start of the week on the main Asian indexes. Financial markets in China are closed for a public holiday. But let's take a look now at how the others are faring, if we can pull them up for you. They did open all in the green as far as things started. Clearly, we're having trouble bringing you the latest figures. There we go. As you can see, still all well into positive territory. The Nikkei in Tokyo up 1.3%, almost the Hang Seng in Hong Kong close to being up 1.5%. And the Kospi in Seoul also well into the green, 1.2% for its part. Well, we can now speak to head market strategist for Asia Pacific at Axi, Stephen Innes. Stephen, we've seen Trump have a brief break there to wave to his supporters, but I would imagine that his health still having an impact on investors' minds?
I think it will, but right now we're just seeing a diminished uncertainty around the seriousness of the president's illness having a positive impact on risk sentiment today. But I think this is being taken in light of how much the market sold off on Friday. And then, given the fact that the markets didn't really sell off that much, I think the overall riding narrative of buying equity markets, buying stocks is still pretty ingrained in long-term investors' mindset. Now, the problem is that we're going to be switching to possibly a new regime around a Democrat election win, and this is going to change up the narrative. So a lot of things are still very uncertain as we sit right now, but we just have to keep tabs of this short-term narrative, which seems to be revolving around President Trump at the moment.
And Stephen, we're also waiting for news from the US on a new stimulus package. I imagine a lot of people will be focusing on what central banks around the world are doing this week.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eve. I think the market's leaning towards a stimulus again, obviously by the reaction and overall risk assets. The thought is now that perhaps Nancy Pelosi might not be so held back, so to speak, to provide a stimulus to the markets in the desperate times right now that are suffering under the under the negativity of President Trump's current illness. So there is some semblance in the market that the stimulus could be on the way over the next couple of weeks, well before the market expects.
Another thing, of course, investors are watching are these Brexit negotiations. We're coming up to the expiration of the transition period, but getting perhaps some hopeful news from Brussels. Boris Johnson and Ursula von der Leyen saying they're ready to hit the ground running on this latest round of talks.
Yeah, I mean, the political discourse is actually favorable for a change, and I think this is what the markets are reading into. And still, the market's base case scenario is for a deal to go through. So right now, things are streaming along quite negatively. I think it would be a massive surprise to risk sentiment if a deal doesn't get done at some point in time over the next few weeks.
Anything else, Stephen, in particular we need to keep an eye out as we start the week?
Just a general run of narrative. It's going to be all what the Federal Reserve Board speakers are going to be saying, what the central bank narratives are going to be saying, and of course the COVID spread, because we're hearing through the media right now that there could be some lockdowns happening in Paris, could be some additional lockdowns happening in Ireland, could be some additional lockdowns happening in Spain, but these are all soft lockdowns. They're going to be bars, et cetera, but still this will weigh negative in the overall backdrop.
Stephen, thanks so much for giving us your insight and analysis. Stephen Innes there, head market strategist for Asia Pacific at Axi.